hardest part I'd say is that people really take you seriously when you're still like bald and in the hospital bed. But when you're doing better, when your hair's growing back, when you don't really look sick, people don't really take that seriously anymore. Hi, my name is Safyaa. I am 24 years old. I come from Madagascar, but I live in Montreal, Canada. I've been here for 3 years now. I did my studies in France first and then came here. And I got diagnosed with an acute lymphoblastic leukemia on the 31st of December 2022, actually, when I was just 22. Just the little things about me. I was a bodybuilder before getting sick. I was a bodybuilder, not professional, but I was competing. I was getting out of my bodybuilding shows in like August 2022. So obviously when you get out of a show, you start gaining weight a little bit more, like the body changes and everything. And so that was in August 2022. And in October, I started to notice that I was a little bit more short of breath on the treadmill. I was getting a little bit dizzy, but I thought it was normal since I was also going to university and stuff. I thought it was completely normal. It comes with the weight gain and stuff. And then in November, December, it started to get a little more intense. I started to hear like my heart pounding in my ears, tinnitus all the time. I was very short of breath. Even cleaning or cooking would, like my heart rate would go up to 130 beats per minute, just doing the simplest chores. And there is a certain, like, I think around December, I was talking about it with my coach, and my coach was telling me that it's not necessarily normal and that getting out of a show should not make you feel like that. So I still neglected it. I thought it was fatigue. I thought, like all of us, I think we all kind of neglect the first symptoms. And then around Christmas, I fainted once, and I was like, okay, there's something wrong. There's definitely something wrong. I tried to go to the gym. I went there. I did one exercise, and I was not feeling good at all. So I went back home. And I talked about it with my parents, and my dad really forced me to go to see a doctor. I was like, no, but I'm fine. I'm just tired. I was like, no, go see a doctor. So I went to see a doctor on the day of Christmas, actually. And the doctor in a walk-in clinic, the doctor told me that everything was fine and that he just sees that my blood pressure was a little bit low, but nothing alarming. So he just gave me a sleeping pills so that I sleep better. So I was like, okay, fine, but can I at least get a blood test? The doctor said, honestly, I think you're fine. You don't need a blood test, whatever. I kind of pushed it, and he ended up giving me a prescription, like a requisition for a blood test that I did 2 days after. I did the blood test in the morning, and in the afternoon I receive a call, and the it's the lab that calls me, and they tell me, okay, your hemoglobin is really low. So hemoglobin is what that like the blood component that brings oxygen to your muscles, your organs, and everything. And he told me that my hemoglobin was at 56, knowing that the low norm should be 120. So I was at 56, and he said, you should go to the emergency right now. So we went there. And as soon as I went there, I told them my symptoms. I told them about my blood counts. And they sent me in a room immediately, like on a bed. And I did a transfusion. I stayed there the entire night. And at like 3 a.m., there's a guy that comes in, like he wakes me up and he says, I'm an oncologist and we need to do a biopsy. I was like half asleep. I was like, what is an oncologist? I didn't even know. I didn't even know what a biopsy was. And the nurse next to him told me, just don't Google anything. I just thought that it was because I needed another transfusion. I literally thought that it was just because I had maybe anemia, like low iron or something. Um, and so I go to the ER with my best friend. The doctor comes in and he tells me, where's your family? And I said, I don't have a family here. I'm basically alone. I just have friends. My family's in Madagascar. And he tells me, okay, you're very, very sick. And I'm like, sorry, what do you mean? And he says it again. He says, you're very, very sick. Your family needs to come as soon as possible to give you a hug. And I'm like, what, what does that mean? And I think my best friend starts to understand, and he says, you have a very aggressive cancer, an acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and you need treatment right now. It's very urgent. You need care as soon as possible. I didn't know what to do, what to think, what to say. He also seemed very like strict, very, so I didn't want to show any emotion. My best friend cried first. I didn't really understand. I didn't know where yeah, it was so confusing. And so yeah, so he basically said that if like if I have an insurance and everything, I should stay in Canada in order to get treated because it's very urgent. And he also knows that in Madagascar, knowing that it's a pretty poor country, he knew that I couldn't really get treated there. So yeah, so he basically encouraged me to start as soon as possible. He gave me the name of a really good cancer center here. So he gave me all the information and stuff. I went to that cancer center, and this is where I've been treated since like the beginning of 2023, basically. So yeah, so it was a very intense night, intense moment. I didn't really understand what was going on, and what I usually do when something is intense, I dissociate. My treatment plan for so leukemia or blood cancers in general are one of the cancers that require the longest treatments and really long maintenance treatments. The thing is, you reach remission pretty fast. So the treatment was I needed to like there's the induction phase where I had to stay at the hospital for a month and a half. And within during this month, in the beginning, they just can't keep you at home because all your blood counts are super low. So your immune system is terribly low. Your hemoglobin, you're at risk of anything, and even like a little flu could kill you when you have leukemia when it's really bad. So they had to keep me there, and they did a lot of things. They needed to preserve my fertility, so the eggs preservation. They needed the freezing. They needed to check my heart, my teeth. They needed to check everything. So that's why I needed to stay there for that long in the beginning. So the first step was fertility, and so they tried to do it for 2 weeks. I was doing injections in my stomach and everything in order to grow eggs, and I managed to grow 31 eggs, which is a lot, which is really good. But the day of the surgery, when I was already getting in the operation room, um, the doctor comes and she runs and she's like, "Wait, stop everything!" And I'm like, "What again?" And she says, "Your platelets are too low. You're too sick, so we can't do that because if we do anything, you might bleed and it might kill you. So we can't do it, and we have to start chemo like tomorrow." What they did instead is that they put me through menopause. So I was menopause for a whole year, just so that it doesn't affect my ovaries too much. So for now, we'll see. But so yeah, so that was the first plan. And then I started chemo. During a month at the hospital, I was doing chemo every week and IT chemos every week also. So IT chemos are, they remove some fluid from your brain and they replace it with chemo, um, just to make sure that your nervous system doesn't get the cancer as well. So they did that for a whole month. And after that, so in February, I reached remission, which is absolutely amazing, very fast. But the thing is, we have to continue intensive treatments for like almost a year just to make sure that the cancer doesn't come back. So from February until November, 2023, I was doing very intensive treatments. I was going to the hospital. At first, I was supposed to go only every 20 days, but I had an allergic reaction to one of the chemos that was very important. So they had to replace it with another one that has to be given every 48 hours. So I had to go to the hospital every 2 days, basically, plus the other days where I had to do transfusions, where I had to go to the ER, where like a lot of stuff happened during cancer treatment. So um, in November, I had a total of 57 chemos, 57 rounds. And now, since November 2023, I have one chemo every month and chemo pills every day. So that is way more manageable. I can live a normal life now. It's still pretty intense, but it has nothing to do with what I went through in the beginning. I obviously lost my hair in terms of side effects. I lost all my hair except for the eyebrows, which is pretty cool. Obviously nausea. I didn't vomit that much. I was really grateful for that. I really did my best to manage the nausea with lemon, with saltine crackers. Pickle juice helped me a lot too. Yeah, I always try to eat super light stuff and very healthy always in order to not have acid reflux. I was also having a lot of anti-nausea because I I have like I am I think you call it emetophobia when you have a phobia of vomiting. That's my case, so that's why I really managed it. Also had mouth sores. So they gave me this special like mouthwash for the mouth sores. Very, very dry skin. So I had to use very special creams also for that. My vision, I think my vision is also a little bit altered from the chemo, from also the mostly the steroids like the prednisone that they give you. My vision is a little bit altered now. I also have a neuropathy, so I can't really feel anything in my fingers and my toes. But to prevent that, I was still having ice packs on my hands and feet just to prevent that as much as I could. So yeah, other than that, I also had hypoglycemia and during certain moments. When I was taking steroids, I had hypoglycemia, so I had to go to the ER for that many times. Obviously, fevers, and everything that comes with it, like the dizziness, the extreme fatigue. I think it would have been okay if I didn't have to do the chemo every 2 days. Like I think it would have been fine. But since it was so frequent, I basically didn't have a normal life anymore. I didn't have a normal life anymore. I was always in bed, and yeah, I think 23 hours on 24 I was in bed. Still trying to go on walks here and there, but it was really, really challenging. Or like I was at the hospital most of the time. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much. And then also like one of the side effects of everything like menopause and stuff was hot flashes a lot and anxiety, obviously, and weight gain. So yeah, I did gain around like 20 kilos with the treatment. When I was in remission, I really had a hard time to understand and to accept that the treatment had to continue, especially that intensive after the first month at the hospital. It was really, really hard to accept, and I am still pretty confused. But from what I understand, I think it's 80% of the patients, if they don't do the maintenance phase, they relapse. And even my treatment had to be a little bit modified, knowing that like my liver was suffering a lot from all the medications. So my skin was getting a little bit yellow. I had fever, yellow eyes, and everything. So jaundice. And also my brain. So as I told you, I was receiving IT chemos, and this I'm still supposed to receive those chemos in the brain every 8 weeks. But since it was too much, it was that much on my brain, we had to take the risk and to stop that because I started to develop white spots on my white matter. I feel like since there was so much going on, I didn't really have time to really sit and to sit with my feelings and emotions and to really understand what was going on. I was just on fight mode, like fight, trying to survive. Didn't really have the time to realize how scary it was, and how hard it was. So as crazy as it sounds, in the beginning, it's easy. It's after that it gets hard. So I was really trying to do like a lot of meditation. I was also keeping myself really distracted. Even at the hospital, I was still working. Since I'm an online fitness coach, I was still working, calling my clients, sending them voice notes and stuff. That really, really helps to stay stimulated. Obviously, my friends came to visit quite a bit. I was reading a lot and trying to really look inwards and try to there is always that point where we wonder, what did I do wrong? Like, what can I do differently? What did I do wrong? So that those were, I'd say, like the hardest parts, where you kind of feel like maybe you attracted it, maybe your energy is not the right energy to have, and whatever. So it really forces you to look inward and to work on yourself. So that really helped in a way, like in terms of mental health. And even though I feel like cancer completely robbed the person I was, um, it still really forced me to change the things that I already wanted to work on. As a bodybuilder, and even as an immigrant, like coming, like I'm facing struggles, or I'm facing things that I don't really have the time to focus on my emotions, my feelings, my vulnerability, and all of that. Like I have a goal and I have to focus on it. As an immigrant, for example, you have that extra pressure of you have to succeed your exams. As a bodybuilder, you have to always be on point on your nutrition, your body, and all of that. And so I would say it again, like cancer completely robbed me, but it also helped me to rebuild myself and like to see things really differently and to really have a different perspective on things and on life. I'm way less focused on, and I had this like maybe it's a good thing to always try to achieve things, but to be an overachiever, it's not. And I definitely was. And cancer really forced me to not be that anymore and to try to enjoy a little bit more like the present moment, which is really, really big. And again, like to try to be more grateful and to not try to be perfect all the time, but to just like be present with myself and to be okay with the person I am and the person I'm being. It's important to learn to how to surrender, because I used to be like a little bit of a control freak, as I said, and like I wanted to be in control of every aspect in my life. And now I'm really trying to accept, and that's one of the hardest part, I think, like accepting that things can be unfair, things can be hard. Um, we don't have the control over everything, but we have to surrender. And it doesn't really mean giving up, but it's acknowledging that your reality is different and that we can choose to face it head on. And yeah, that is always remembering that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like everything is temporary. Which it can be suffering, it can be everything. Even happiness is temporary. But keeping that in mind and knowing that there's an end date, or that tomorrow is going to be brighter, and if it's not tomorrow, it's going to be in a month, but it will be. And keeping that hope is so important. Listen to yourself, listen to your body, which I didn't do, and that's why I'm advising it. And like, if there's any symptom, anything wrong, it's really, really important to talk about it, or to see someone, or like, it doesn't mean it's cancer necessarily, but if we're a little bit fatigued, if we feel like, let's say our menstrual like cramps are a little bit more painful and stuff, it's important to get it checked, because it can be like a little something. And health is everything. When people say health is wealth, like I had to go through cancer to really understand what it really meant. It's so important. So yeah, and the body is a temple, so nurture it as much as you can. Eat well, exercise, do everything you can to stay healthy. Like, there is someone in a hospital bed right now that is literally dreaming to live your life if you're on your feet right now. So take care of your body. Really, that's so important.